our event that's focusing on financial elder abuse. We have very good people here to speak about the topic. I'll go through their list of names. Rachel Senecal, she is with the Northwestern District Attorney's Office. She's a coordinator for elders and persons with disability units. Janice Garrett, she is also with the Northwestern District Attorney's Office, and she is with the Consumer Protection Unit. We have Sergeant Dan McCarthy with the Greenfield Police Department. Dean Lagratarian, he is with Life Path, which is in this area. He is the Protective Services Regional Director. And we have Lynn Feldman, also with Life Path, Director of Community Service and Planner. And also Walter Lascos, he's the Senior VP of Strategic Communications with the Cooperative Credit Union Association. And he's going to talk about the Senior Safeguard Program that organization has come up with to teach more about education that you guys will have access to after this presentation. So Rachel is going to start us off.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, it's not morning. Nope, it's noon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm hoping that you are enjoying your lunch, and I want to thank you all for coming out to this wonderful, wonderful event for a lot of very good and very helpful information. So as Michelle said, my name is Rachel Senecal. I'm the coordinator for the Elders and Persons with Disabilities Abuse Unit at the Northwestern District Attorney's Office. And what our unit does is we investigate and we prosecute crimes where victims who are elderly or disabled fall victim. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about what we see in our office. So we deal with primarily elder financial exploitation. That's the #1 crime that our office investigates and prosecutes against seniors. So I'm happy to see that this room is full because it really is a very prevalent issue. One thing I will say is that community awareness is very, very important in financial exploitation of seniors, because seniors oftentimes do not report this themselves, and it's up to those around them to see the signs. So what is financial exploitation? We'll start with that. So I'm going to read you the criminal statute, which is a bunch of mumbo jumbo, but I'm going to do it anyway. An act or omission by another person which causes a substantial monetary or property loss to an elderly person. So that's the mumbo jumbo. Now, what does that mean? What are we talking about? So some examples of financial exploitation are theft of cash, theft of property, theft of checks, unauthorized withdrawals from a bank account using either a debit or a credit card or a check, false checks, a misuse of a power of attorney, identity theft and scams, which you're going to learn a little bit about next. And one thing I will say, not all financial exploitation is criminal, and I'll go into that a little bit later. So why is this such a problem? Why are seniors often targeted for financial exploitation? One reason is because seniors have more assets. Seniors have worked their whole lives, they've owned businesses, they have savings, so they're a target. Seniors also tend to have better credit scores, which is why they are often targeted for identity theft. Also, one thing that is a huge risk factor and why seniors are often targeted is isolation. For example, if a senior is living perhaps out in one of the hill towns, their children have grown, they've moved out, their spouse has passed away, and they're left really isolated. This is a huge risk factor for elder abuse for 2 reasons. The first is that when you're lonely, you tend to talk more to people who reach out to you. So that includes phone scams, mail scams. If someone calls you, you want to talk to them because you're lonely. Isolation is also a risk factor because individuals who financially exploit elders, so whether that's a family member or a PCA or something like that, they want the elder to be isolated because then there's less of a chance that someone will find out what they're doing. So that's a huge, huge risk factor. Seniors are also at risk because seniors grew up in a time when a handshake and a promise meant something. And nowadays, that's not necessarily the case. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what types of people, what types of criminals we're seeing abuse these. So who's doing this to seniors? A study was done in 2014 of about 4,000 older adults. And they found that adult family members were the most common perpetrators of financial exploitation. Family members. Followed by friends and neighbors. Followed by home care aides. So financial exploitation is a very intimate sort of crime. You got to get close to somebody to be able to get access to funds. And that's why we see family members are the #1 type of perpetrator. A follow-up study was done in 2015 to sort of hone in on that group a little bit further, and perpetrators were most likely to be adult children or spouses. And it's easy when I say that to understand why elder abuse is not reported, because it's oftentimes in the family, and no one wants to get their family member in trouble. They also found out that abusers were more likely to be male, to have a history of past or current substance abuse. Now this is a big one. We're seeing this is related to a lot of these instances of financial exploitation, whether that's drugs or alcohol. Some people they need a little bit of help. Perpetrators were also more likely to have mental or physical health problems, have a history of trouble with police, themselves be socially isolated, or to be unemployed. So that's sort of what we're seeing, is somebody who may have trouble getting their own life together and their own affairs in order are more likely to abuse elders. So that's why, another reason why it's very, very important for community awareness, because these elders are not going out and they're not reporting on their family members. So it's up to friends and other family members to sort of recognize, learn more about financial exploitation and how to recognize it. So, I think my time is up. Is that what that was? Okay. So, again, I want to thank you all for coming out. And next up we have Janice Garrett from our Consumer Protection Unit.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm not used to talking into a microphone. Again, my name's Janice, and I work at in the District Attorney's Office in the Consumer Protection Unit. And what we do is we provide consumer assistance to you. If you have a problem with a car and the company won't honor the warranty, you can call us and we can advocate on your behalf. If you buy an appliance, a refrigerator, and the refrigerator is freezing your lettuce instead of keeping it nice and chilled, and the company says, well, you know, that's not covered under warranty, and your refrigerator is 6 months old, well, come to us and we can try to help you. We work in cooperation with the Massachusetts Attorney General's office out of Boston, and so that's what we do. We get a lot of scams that come into our office, and we see them on the telephone, we see it on a computer, and we see it through the mail. I have a gentleman who lives in South Deerfield who keeps me up to date, and he has for the past 18 years, on all the scams that come into his house. And the other day, last week, he sent me this. It's a letter that he got from Publishers Clearinghouse. It's not really a letter from Publishers Clearinghouse, but he thought it might be. And it came with a check, a cashier's check, and these are all copies. So it's a cashier's check. And what he's told, one thing, let me back up. What all these scams have in common is they want you to keep it a secret. They want you to do things quickly, urgency, and a lot of times they scare you. So with this one, he's excited. He thinks he might have won. So they sent him a check for $4,600 with instructions to keep it confidential, and this check is to cover duty taxes. that he needs to pay. So he's instructed to put this in his bank, and I'm sure that your credit union people will tell you that once you put it in your bank, you're responsible for it. So then they instruct you to take that money and wire it, usually through Western Union or MoneyGram, to pay the taxes. So then that check comes back and it bounces, and the bank holds you responsible to pay them back. So you not only didn't win the Publishers Clearinghouse, they didn't come to your house with balloons and give you your big check. You also have to pay the bank back. So be careful of that. That's through the mail. We see, most of the things we see are through telephone calls. Last year there were 30 billion with a B, phone calls made to people's homes. And so it's no wonder, the odds are in their favor that they're gonna have some success. Again, they want you to keep things secret. The IRS, has anyone in this room not gotten a call from the IRS for back taxes? Well, I get one pretty much every other day, but they try to scare you. And in the beginning, it really worked because the government is calling you. No one wants the IRS to call them. No one. And so they scare you. They tell you you have to pay them quickly. You can do it through MoneyGram, and now the new way of paying is through gift cards. And which, when I first read that, I thought to myself, why would that work? Why would I pay the federal government with a Home Depot card or a Amazon card? But then I thought back, and it's like, because they've scared me. I'm not thinking clearly. They rush me so I don't have time to talk to my family and friends, and they want me to keep it confidential, and I'm embarrassed because I owe back taxes. So all those reasons are part of the reason why they're successful. Now, I'm down the street and on Bank Row, that old building that they renovated. You can come and see me, and we can talk about scams, and I'm here. You can call me. We have bags for you in the back. Our number is on the bag, and you can feel free to call me. But remember, gift cards are for giving gifts. And you don't have to, if someone's asking you to pay with a gift card or money wiring, remember, you can't get the money back. So any questions, give me a call. I'm here. I'm right in Greenfield with you. And thanks for having us.
Thank you, Jill. This is a quick follow-up to what she said about checks. Obviously, I am the CEO of the credit union. She is very correct in the fact that once you deposit that check, you are responsible for it. So if you ever go to a teller line and you try to deposit a check and that teller seems a little bit too interested in what you are depositing that check for, where it came, they're trying to figure out for themselves to protect you, whether that's a scam or not. So if a teller is questioning you, try not to get angry, try not to get annoyed. They're doing it for a reason. We're all taught and trained to to find those things out, to stop it before it happens to you. So be very aware of that when you're at a teller line. Next up is going to be Sergeant McCarthy. He's going to talk to you about what's happening in this area.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Dan McCarthy. I'm with the Greenfield Police Department. I'm part of the Detective Bureau. And as part of the Detective Bureau, we handle the majority of these type of crimes. We investigate a myriad of different crimes that may happen to people, the more serious crimes, but also the crimes that are much more in-depth, such as financial crimes. On the heels of Janice, a lot of the scams that we are seeing right now are focused on our elders. And she pointed out exactly why that is happening. Some of the two major scams that we're seeing right now are the gift card scam, where they will call you and demand some sort of payment. Most recent one we just had, a elder was called and said her grandson was in the Gardner Court and that he had $2,000 fines. So the elder was told, just go up to Home Depot get $2,000 in gift cards and call me back. So the person did that because they were concerned for their grandson. They went up, purchased two $1,000 gift cards from Home Depot. Home Depot won't question that. Of course, they're going to sell gift cards. When the elder got home, she called the number back and supplied them with the gift card numbers and the PIN number. Shortly after that, the same person called back and said that there was fines also owed. That elder did, again, go up to Home Depot and purchased another two $1,000 credit, debit card, or gift cards, called and gave the numbers. Unfortunately, in our age of technology, once those numbers are given out along with the PIN, it's within minutes, even hours, that those numbers and cards are given out. And it was a bunch of people. There's large groups. We were able to find out that the purchases used using those cards were made all around the country. California, New Jersey, Texas, Florida, Utah, Arizona. So the numbers are just being taken and shipped out to workers. Now, the other big scam that is happening is people are asked to sell something online through either our Craigslist, our Facebook Marketplace, and they're selling an item, and a lot of payments are done through PayPal. When an item is sold, or asked to be sold to a person, they're shipping it out to someone else, not the person who's buying it. And then that person who is arranging the purchase is not making payment, but the item's already been shipped out. And then the person who is arranging this is also speaking with the person that it's being shipped to. That item goes to a house. Just recently, an iPhone 8 was shipped to a house in Greenfield here, and the person in Chicago was the one that sold it. So he was able to let me know what the address was. We were able to go to the house and quickly retrieve the phone. One last thing I want to touch on is if you feel there's something wrong, there's a lot of services out there, your banking industry, the DA's office, the police department. Contact them as soon as possible. The quicker you contact them, the better chances are we have of recovering your property or money. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to now invite Dean Gilman to have them.
Thank you all very much. Nice to see you all today. So I work for Berkshire LifePath Other Benefit Services, and what we do is we investigate allegations of abuse, neglect, and exploitation of people who are 60 or over in the community. Unlike the DA, for instance, when they investigate exploitation cases, they'll investigate any crimes committed on an elder. We will only investigate those concerned when there's a relationship between the elder and the person committing the offense. That's one point. And also, any abuse or exploitation committed against somebody in a nursing home, we won't investigate. It has to be a community-based situation. So, the purpose of today's discussion, I'll be focusing only on two allegations that we deal with. One is financial exploitation, and I think Rachel touched on the examples of those. And also self-neglect. We often don't only look at exploitation cases, but we look at some of the cases that we see are more of a matter of self-neglect. Somebody's not managing their finances appropriately, making poor decisions regarding their finances. So we'll deal with financial exploitation and self-neglect. Examples of, say, self-neglect would be bills are not being paid by an elder, scams. We don't investigate the scam themselves, we will investigate those circumstances that around the scam, how the scam came to affect the elder, how they were susceptible to the scam itself. Insufficient funds to meet needs, that'd be something else we would look into as far as self-neglect would go. And gambling, if somebody has a gambling problem, it's affecting their ability to meet their basic needs, and it's something we would kind of look into and help them address. And just so we're clear, Elder Protective Services isn't so concerned about prosecuting or being punitive for those who are committing these offenses against you. We're more into remedying the effects of the exploitation or preventing it from happening in the future. We are all mandated reporters, so if we do find exploitation, we're required to turn it over to the DA for prosecution. But typically, that's not really our primary function. Our primary function really is to stop the abuse. So if you or anybody you know is the victim of exploitation, there's two ways you can report to us. One is you can call the 1-800 number, this is listed in your packet, in your bag you'll have. That's 800-922-2275. That's a 24/7 number. And also, you could also file online if you are disposed to do that at www.mass.gov/report elder abuse. So just so you know that if you report, your name is confidential. It won't be released to anybody. The only time it is released is if we turn that case over to the DA and they decide to prosecute, they might just contact you for further information if you're the reporter. If the situation is being investigated by the police separate from us, I would still encourage you to report, even though it might be resolved as far as you're concerned, where there's no more loss. But there might be some issues that we could deal with in the community to help out prevent further loss. And so when you do report, you call that 800 number. They'll ask you a lot of questions. But basically what we need from you is to be as specific as possible. Names, dates, any relationships to people that might be involved in the case, any numbers, any bank accounts that you're aware of, things like that. More information helps us respond in a particular time frame. And also another thing to remember is financial exploitation is often coupled with other forms of abuse. We very rarely see or get cases where it's just financial exploitation. Usually it's coupled with emotional abuse and physical abuse, and a lot of times we'll see it with neglect as well, where the caregiver will be in the home, taking care of the elder, but also exploiting them as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean. I'd like to welcome up Lynn Feldman now. She's also from Lightpath.
Hi, everyone. So if you have some concerns for yourself or your loved ones about how to navigate this really scary environment that we just learned about in terms of financial exploitation and just in general, being able to manage your own money in the long run, there are some resources available to you should you need them through LifePath. LifePath operates a money management program that's sponsored by LifePath and the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. And this program assists elders and people with disabilities who have difficulty writing checks, managing their basic living expenses for a number of different reasons. It could be cognitive issues, physical disability, blindness, lack of skills. Maybe your spouse was the one who always managed the funds and you are needing some assistance with that, and there's no one available to you to do that. LifePath can provide a money manager to help you. These money managers are typically trained volunteers who work closely with our office to meet with elders in the community, usually in their home each month, to go through the bills. They will rate checks, balance a checkbook, sort your bills, develop a budget, monitor income and expenses, develop a repayment plan, and also deal with anything uncertain that may come up, such as if you get a letter in the mail, like the ones that we've heard about today, and you weren't sure what to do with it. You can call your money manager and have that person get you some help with navigating that issue. And in the case of the bill payer services, the elder or person with disability retains the right to sign their own check, so they're in total control of their finances, but they have an advisor who can help them to make sure that those get taken care of. LifePath also has a representative payee program for people who are not able to manage their own money at all, and who are not able to sign their own checks, more or less. This assigns persons of low income who are incapable of handling their own finances for various reasons. They complete a financial management, a government benefit like Social Security, a supplemental income, or railroad retirement. The benefit check is entirely deposited into a dedicated bank account, and the representative payee makes sure that person's bills are paid and the person has their finances taken care of completely that way. So in order to be eligible for bill payer services, we serve people who are 60 or older, also people with disabilities. The service is available at no cost to people who have assets less than $35,000 and income less than $44,750 per year for an individual, or $51,100 for a couple. People who have assets greater than $35,000 can pay a sliding fee, a sliding scale, and still get access to services. So it probably would still be more cost effective than, say, hiring a bookkeeper or accountant or attorney to provide the service for you. You must be a Franklin County resident or live in Athol, Peterson, Phillipston, and Royalston, which is our service area. If you happen to live outside that service area, we can refer you to a different agency who can help you. And you must have a checking account and direct Social Security direct deposit, which is another requirement of the program. So it works basically, as I mentioned, LifePath trains volunteers, an elder, or someone on behalf of the elder, a person with disability, would call our program to request assistance. And if the person qualifies for the program, we would match that person with a volunteer as soon as one becomes available. We do have a waiting list for this program, but we're hoping to grow up our volunteer base a little bit so that we can reduce that waiting list to get services to more folks. If the person doesn't qualify, we would help you find something else that would help to meet your needs. Our information referral department and life